Ms. Fiorina is one of 3 new candidates who have jumped into the Republican melee this week.
A melee refers to a fight, most of the time, where there are multiple individuals fighting multiple other individuals, and they're all pretty much mixed in together. If you ever see these gladiator movies or these medieval movies where everybody's just swinging the swords around, you'll see at some point they may have started with very organized lines of soldiers, but by the time they're done, they're just running around looking for people to hit. And I guess the same would go for some of these cowboy movies too, where they're fighting the Indians. The idea of melee originally comes from the idea of being in the middle, which means instead of being on one side or being on the other side, that you are literally surrounded by your enemies. So a melee is basically a fight. And they use it in a metaphorical sense to refer to any type of fight where there's more than, let's say, 2 or 3 people. For example, a gang fight. They'll talk about a melee. They'll also use it to refer to a competition between multiple participants. So if there's more than, say, 2 or 3 politicians running for a particular office, such as the 17 Republicans vying for the presidency, the contest is oftentimes referred to as a melee. The melee of Republican challengers was again on the stump last week. Might be a typical headline that you would read. And synonyms for melee would be skirmish or scuffle or fight. In this context, one of 3 candidates who have jumped into the Republican melee this week. So the Republican melee refers to the political struggle between the different Republican candidates. The stock market last week, it started as a melee between the bulls and the bears, and it ended up turning into a rout where the bulls were chased away and the price of the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 200 points. A lot of people go watch hockey. They're not so interested in the hockey. They're really interested in the fights. And the best fights of all are when it turns into a melee, where all of the players on both teams, they rush onto the ice and they go at each other for a while. And they can't punish everybody. So they either end the game or they basically let everybody off, and then they go back and play hockey again after the melee.
He delivered a bombastic speech, lamenting the slaughter of over 55 million babies in the name of choice.
Bombastic refers to a person, usually, who gives a speech, oftentimes very boisterous and loud and pompous and arrogant, but without very much substance, where what they're trying to do is use the force of their personality to push their position on everyone else. Originally, I thought the idea of bombastic came from the idea of bomb, which means to basically create an explosion. But apparently it comes from another word from way back when that nobody knows, which means padding, cotton padding. So you can imagine somebody, let's say they're in a suit, and then the suit is padded with a lot of cotton to make them look like they're very muscular and very strong, when in fact they're really not. It's just the suit that makes them look that way. So in this sense, you could have a speaker who is not really giving that much substance, but because of this attitude of pomposity and arrogance, it may seem like they're giving a speech of substance, but they're really not. Good example here would be Donald Trump, where people become pretty enamored of what he has to say, but when they think about it afterwards, it's not really so much what he says, it's just his highly arrogant attitude that seems to get people's attention, not the substance. But also keep in mind that what is bombastic and what is not is oftentimes a function of the times. You may notice if you read old speeches from Congress of, let's say, 100 years ago or 150 years ago, that the people that gave the speeches, they oftentimes sounded very bombastic. They would talk about the glory of the flag and how carrying through this law would, uphold the dignity and righteousness of the United States. And you realize that what they were doing is they were covering what they were trying to say with a whole lot of extra prose, which is not so common today, but at the same time, people can still be bombastic. They just do it differently than they did in the olden days.
That's all for today. Tom Taylor is an ESL tutor. He teaches English in the United States and outside, all over the world using Skype. He can be reached at his website, which is
ESL-fullsteamahead.com.
Click on this link and check out his website and email with questions. Thank you, Tom, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.